Hey everyone, and welcome to the channel. Make sure you subscribe to catch all my newest uploads. My wife, Lily, the architect of my own personal downfall, orchestrated a betrayal that landed me behind bars, only to later receive a gift from me, a gesture that elicited a scream echoing through our once shared neighborhood. The court, in its infinite wisdom, had decreed that I, the wronged party, should pay $2,000 monthly in spousal support, a sum that felt like salt rubbed into a still bleeding wound. Added to this financial burden was $1,000 for the mortgage, child support, and health insurance for our daughter, Regina, until she reached the age of 18, with the looming specter of college expenses yet to come. The judge, with a tone that suggested this was a perfectly reasonable outcome, declared that this arrangement would cost me upwards of $6,500 a month, a staggering sum, especially considering Lily's brazen and very public affairs with multiple lawyers within her own firm. The irony was as thick as the tension in the courtroom. I, Kurt D'Angelo, felt not just screwed, but utterly and completely eviscerated. My daughter, Regina, the bright, shining light of my existence, meant the world to me, a universe contained within a single, precious life. She had pleaded, with the heartbreaking sincerity only a child can possess, to live with me, to escape the toxic atmosphere that had permeated our home. But the judge, deaf to her pleas and blind to the truth, ruled otherwise. The entire trial felt like a grotesque parody of justice, a charade orchestrated by Lily and her legal cronies. The exorbitant support order, particularly in light of Lily's substantial and ill-gotten income, felt like a final, cruel twist of the knife. The judge, I was convinced, harbored a deep-seated prejudice against me, but I refused to accept this defeat lying down. This wasn't the end, it was merely the beginning of my counter-offensive. Lily would come to regret crossing me, of that I was certain. I possessed a certain knack, a talent if you will, for seizing opportunities, for turning the tables, even if some of my past dealings had navigated the murky waters of ethical ambiguity. Now a real estate entrepreneur with a diverse portfolio of holdings, including, rather ironically, a coin exchange business, I hatched a plan. I would pay the $2,000 spousal support, every penny of it, in coins. Let her and her coterie of lawyer friends, those vultures circling the carcass of my former life, have the tedious pleasure of rolling those pennies, of counting their spoils. Lily, in the early years of our marriage, had been a stay-at-home mother, content in her role until Regina began school. Then, with a sudden and unsettling ambition, she embarked on a career as a paralegal, swiftly ascending the corporate ladder with an almost unnatural speed. She caught the eye, or perhaps more accurately, the attention, of a high-flying lawyer who, conveniently, made her his personal assistant. Looking back, the rose-tinted glasses shattered and discarded, I strongly suspected she was trading favors even then, bartering her way to the top. As her career blossomed, fueled by ambition and something darker, she insisted, with an almost manic fervor, that we move to a more prestigious neighborhood. A testament to our supposed success, my preference for the comfortable familiarity of our Oak Forest home was dismissed as pedestrian, unworthy of her newly elevated status. Thus, we acquired a $900,000 house, a monument to her extravagant tastes and insatiable desire for outward appearances. I, however, never felt at ease within its opulent walls, a stranger in my own home. Reflecting on the wreckage of our marriage, I realized that we had always harbored vastly different aspirations, different visions of the future. I valued simplicity, the quiet comfort of a life well lived. She craved the intoxicating allure of ostentation, the validation of material wealth. Now, facing the stark reality of the judge's ruling, I resolved to follow the letter of the law, to adhere to every single stipulation, but Lily, I knew, would not be pleased with the manner in which I chose to do so. The following month, I set my plan into motion, the gears clicking into place with a satisfying precision. Regina, my beloved daughter, would receive her support directly, deposited securely into her own account, not a single dime filtering through Lily's gritty fingers. Regina would also enjoy the benefit of premium health coverage, while Lily, as a small taste of her own medicine, would receive a high-deductible plan. After 30 days, the allotted time elapsed, it was time for Lily's first spousal support payment. I, with a touch of theatrical flair, arranged for an armored truck to deliver it to her doorstep. The scene that unfolded was one of pure, unadulterated schadenfreude. Bewildered and humiliated, Lily and a friend, a silent witness to her downfall, watched as bags of coins, the physical manifestation of her ill-gotten gains, were unceremoniously unloaded onto her pristine driveway, attracting a growing crowd of curious neighbors, their whispers like a Greek chorus commenting on her misfortune. As the truck rumbled away, leaving her standing amidst a mountain of metal, she shrieked my name, a sound filled with impotent rage. I simply waved, a gesture of both farewell and contempt, and yelled, "Enjoy your lover's money." The following Tuesday, a man approached me, his demeanor suggesting an unpleasant task, asking if I was Kurt D'Angelo. I remained silent, offering him no assistance in his pursuit. He snapped a photograph of me, a grainy image capturing the moment, the summons clutched in his hand like a damning indictment. When I refused to take the document, he simply dropped it at my feet, uttering the perfunctory, "You've been served," and departed, leaving me to contemplate the next act in this ongoing drama. I retrieved the summons, the weight of it heavy in my hand, and noted the date, next Wednesday. I had a week to prepare, a week to sharpen my defenses. I spent the intervening days strategizing with my lawyer, discussing the intricacies of the case, and sharing a quiet lunch with Regina, who was visibly distraught over her mother's increasingly erratic behavior. I warned Regina, preparing her for the worst-case scenario, that I might end up in jail if the judge ruled against me. The day of the hearing arrived, heavy with anticipation. We waited in the sterile confines of the courtroom with my lawyer, the silence punctuated only by the hushed whispers of other litigants. Then, with a flourish of self-importance, Lily and her attorney swaggered in, their faces etched with sneers of contempt. Regina, her young voice trembling with emotion, attempted to interject, to defend her father, but the judge, with a sharp rap of the gavel, silenced her, his expression suggesting he had already been swayed by the unsubstantiated accusations leveled against me, accusations clearly orchestrated by Lily and her legal team. My lawyer, his voice calm and measured, protested, "Your Honor, we are unaware of any such accusations. None have been formally presented to the court." "I'm referring to a psychiatrist's report," the judge retorted, his tone brooking no argument. "My decision stands." The words hung in the air, heavy with finality. It then dawned on me, for months prior, Regina, struggling to cope with the emotional turmoil of the divorce, had seen a therapist. Lily, with her characteristic cunning, must have unearthed something within those confidential notes, some misinterpreted phrase or out-of-context statement that she believed would sway the judge in her favor, further solidifying her already iron grip on the narrative. The truth, however, remained inviolable. I had never, not once, acted inappropriately with my daughter. My conscience was clear, but in the twisted realm of family court, that often counted for little. So, I knew how to handle myself, how to navigate the treacherous currents of this concrete jungle. These guards, though, seemed intent on pushing me to the brink, testing the limits of my self-control. One of them, a short, stocky individual radiating a Napoleon complex as palpable as the stale air, took particular delight in mocking me, in reminding me of my fallen status. "Oh, sorry, Your Honor," he'd sneer, his voice dripping with sarcasm. "Did we interrupt your important legal deliberations?" The other guard, taller but possessing the spineless demeanor of a hyena, simply chuckled along, a sycophantic echo of his partner's cruelty. I refused to rise to the bait, choosing instead to focus on the tedious, dehumanizing intake process. They meticulously documented my existence within these walls, capturing my fingerprints, preserving my image in a mugshot, and confiscating my belongings, stripping me of my identity piece by piece. Stripped down to the humiliating orange jumpsuit, the uniform of the condemned, I felt a familiar surge of anger, hot and potent, coursing through my veins. This wasn't justice, it was a grotesque mockery, a perversion of the very principles it purported to uphold. Lily, with her intricate web of lies and her network of influential connections, had manipulated the system, bending it to her will, turning it into a weapon against me. After processing, they escorted me to the bowels of the facility, to the designated cell block where I would serve my sentence. The stench, a nauseating cocktail of stale sweat, rancid urine, and industrial disinfectant, hit me like a physical blow, a visceral assault on my senses. The cacophony of sound was almost overwhelming, the raucous shouts of inmates, the hollow echoes of laughter, the incessant clang of metal against metal, a constant reminder of our confinement. I scanned the faces of the other inhabitants of this concrete purgatory, a motley assortment of hardened criminals and desperate souls caught in the unforgiving gears of the system, their eyes reflecting a mixture of resignation and simmering rage. I located an empty bunk, a small island of relative privacy in this sea of despair, and sat down, the metal frame cold against my skin, as I attempted to process the surreal turn of events. 6 months, half a year of my life, stolen from me, ripped away without justification, simply because I dared to challenge the authority of a corrupt judge, a man who had traded his impartiality for personal gain. My thoughts, unbidden and unwelcome, drifted to Regina, my innocent daughter, caught in the crossfire of this bitter war. How would she cope without me, without my guidance and support? The question gnawed at me, a constant reminder of the stakes. I needed to get out of this place, and fast. The following morning, I was granted an audience with the jail's public defender, a weary-looking woman with dark circles under her eyes that spoke volumes about the endless parade of human misery she witnessed on a daily basis. I recounted my ordeal, the blatant bias of the judge, Lily's Machiavellian machinations, the calculated humiliation of the coin payment. She listened with a practiced patience, her expression carefully neutral, a mask concealing her thoughts. "Mr. D'Angelo," she said finally, her voice tinged with a world-weariness that mirrored my own, "contempt of court is a serious offense. Insulting a judge, even if he is demonstrably biased, is not a strategically sound approach. We can certainly attempt to appeal the sentence, but frankly, it's a long shot, a gamble with unfavorable odds." "Appeal," I scoffed, the word laced with bitterness. "That'll take months, possibly even years to navigate the labyrinth and bureaucracy of the legal system. I need to get out of here now. Regina needs me. She can't wait for the glacial pace of justice to grind its way to a resolution," she sighed, a sound heavy with the weight of countless lost causes. "There might be another option, a less conventional path," she conceded. "If you were to offer a sincere apology to the judge, admit your wrongdoing, regardless of its veracity, he might be inclined to reduce your sentence, to show leniency. Apologize to that corrupt, self-righteous hypocrite, the man who had so readily sacrificed justice on the altar of personal gain." The very thought made my stomach churn, a visceral reaction to the injustice of it all. But Regina, the image of her face, etched with worrying and confusion, flashed in my mind, and the decision, difficult as it was, solidified. "Fine," I said, the words forced through gritted teeth, each syllable a testament to the bitter taste of surrender. "Set it up. I'll apologize." It was a humiliating pill to swallow, a concession to the forces of injustice that had conspired against me. But for Regina, for my daughter, I would endure any humiliation, any degradation. The wheels of the legal system, greased by Lily's influence and oiled by corruption, had momentarily crushed me, but I refused to be broken. This wasn't over, not by a long shot. I would find a way, no matter the cost, to expose the truth, to clear my name, and to make Lily pay for the devastation she had wrought upon my life. My time in this concrete hellhole, this monument to human fallibility, would only serve to fuel my resolve, to harden my determination. The game, I realized with a chilling certainty, had just begun. They processed me, a cog in the machine of incarceration, then ushered me into the chaotic maelstrom of the cell yard. I deliberately blocked out the cacophony of noise and the frenetic commotion, erecting a mental barrier against the sensory overload. My strategy was simple: maintain a low profile, observe, and safeguard myself. As long as I remained unobtrusive, a ghost in this concrete labyrinth, I could blend into the background, a shadow amongst shadows. When the clang of metal on metal announced the arrival of dinner, I collected my tray and joined the shuffling queue, the palpable tension in the air thick enough to cut with a knife. I leaned against a cool, unyielding wall, consuming the bland, institutional fare while surreptitiously observing the other inmates, attempting to project an air of nonchalant toughness, a veneer of indifference. Then, piercing through the din, a voice, a phantom echo from a life I had tried to bury, reached my ears. "Tex," it called out, a familiar voice laced with the gritty cadence of my delinquent past. My old street moniker, a relic of a bygone era, resonated through the yard, a spectral reminder of who I once was. "Tex," repeated the voice, now closer, belonging to Randall, also known as Ringer, a familiar face from those reckless, youthful days. "What in the hell are you doing in here?" As he approached, the collective gaze of the inmates shifted, focusing on us, the tension crackling like static electricity. I set down my tray, the metallic clang echoing in the sudden silence, and embraced him in a bro hug, a ritualistic gesture of solidarity. Right hands clasped firmly, a silent acknowledgement of our shared history, my other arm draped around his shoulders, a gesture of camaraderie in this unforgiving environment. "Ringer, man, it's good to see a familiar face," I said, my voice betraying a genuine warmth that surprised even me. "How have you been?" "Not great," he replied, a wry grin twisting his lips. "Obviously, I'm in here, and you, what landed you in this mess?" Told the judge he was a jerk. Basically, I admitted, a flicker of defiance in my eyes. "That'll do it," he chuckled, a low rumble in his chest. "So, how long are you in for?" 6 months, I replied, the weight of the sentence settling heavily upon me, unless I apologized to that so-and-so. "So, 6 months, I guess," he concluded, the unspoken understanding hanging in the air. We conversed, consuming our meager meal amidst the watchful gaze of the other inmates, their silent scrutiny a palpable presence. Ringer, a veteran of this concrete jungle, filled me in on the unwritten rules of the cell block, the intricate social hierarchy, the unspoken codes of conduct that govern this brutal microcosm of society. He pledged his protection, a promise of solidarity in this hostile environment, and I reciprocated, a silent pact forged in the crucible of shared experience. We reminisced about the old days, the reckless escapades of our youth, the shared memories a bittersweet reminder of a life I had left behind. After hearing my tale of woe, he asked, his voice tinged with curiosity, "What's your plan with your ex, her partners, and the judge?" He knew me, the unvarnished version of myself, the young man fueled by a burning desire for retribution, the street kid who had earned his nickname through a reputation for swift and merciless justice. Knowing me, since I was young back then, revenge was always my go-to, I admitted, the words a confession and a declaration of intent. That's why they called me Tex. They called me Tex because of Texas. You know, like, don't mess with Texas. Anyone who did paid the price. They'd think twice before crossing me again, and they'd spread the word, too. So, what went down with the judge? He inquired, his eyes alight with anticipation. I basically told him he was trash, I replied, the memory still raw, a festering wound. Damn, he breathed, a low whistle escaping his lips. How did he react? He took my daughter away, I said, the words heavy with anguish, even though she explicitly expressed her desire to live with me. And then, to add insult to injury, he practically accused me of harming her, of committing some unspeakable act. Damn, Ringer repeated, shaking his head in disbelief. So, what's your move? I've got some things cooking, I replied cryptically, a hint of steel in my voice. I knew I might end up here, so I started planning weeks ago, laying the groundwork for my counteroffensive. Need any help? He offered, his loyalty unwavering. Maybe, I conceded, not sure yet, but it's good to have a friend in here, and a light in this concrete jungle. I'll introduce you to some of my buddies, he promised, understanding the importance of alliances in this treacherous environment. It's crucial to have people you can trust, people who will watch your back. That night, lying on the thin, unforgiving mattress, the harsh reality of my situation pressing down on me like a physical weight, I questioned the cruel twists of fate that had led me to this point. Reflecting on the turbulent waters of my childhood, the tempestuous storms of an abusive father and a passively complicit mother, I realized that the streets, for all their inherent dangers, had become my refuge, my sanctuary from the turmoil of my home. I found solace and a sense of belonging in a group of kindred spirits, young men navigating similar treacherous currents, their lives scarred by similar traumas. We weren't a gang, not in the traditional sense, but a band of brothers, united by circumstance, grappling with the harsh realities of a world that had dealt us a difficult hand. Our actions, fueled by youthful recklessness and a desperate desire for escape, certainly didn't contribute to Lansing's already high crime rate. Mostly petty crimes, acts of youthful indiscretion, but we did, in a moment of youthful folly, steal a car or two, a transgression that ultimately landed me in juvenile detention. Looking back, I recognized that experience, a pivotal turning point, a crucible that forged my resolve to change, to envision a better future for myself. At the age of 20, driven by a newfound ambition, I purchased a tax-foreclosed house, a dilapidated shell of a building that represented the first brick in the foundation of my future empire. I renovated it, breathing new life into its decaying frame, and rented it out, the first of many properties I would acquire and transform, the tangible manifestation of my hard-won redemption. At 22, in a dimly lit club whose name has faded into the mists of memory, I met Lily. Her life, a tapestry woven with the threads of privilege and small-town values, stood in stark contrast to the rough-hewn fabric of my own existence. Raised in Seymour, Indiana, a small town etched into the American consciousness through the music of John Cougar Mellencamp, she seemed a world away from the gritty streets of my Southside Chicago upbringing. Despite our disparate backgrounds, we connected, drawn together by an inexplicable force, a spark of mutual attraction that ignited into a flame. We married a year later, a whirlwind romance culminating in vows exchanged beneath a canopy of hope and optimism. A year after that, we welcomed Regina into our lives, a beautiful daughter named Lily's mother, a tiny, perfect embodiment of our shared love. I purchased a house in Oak Forest, intending to flip it, to transform it into another investment property, but when Lily saw it, she fell in love with its quaint charm, its potential for warmth and family life. She envisioned it as our home, a place where we could raise our daughter and build our future together. Over the next decade, we poured our hearts and souls into that house, transforming it into a home, a sanctuary filled with laughter and love. We raised our daughter within its walls, nurtured her dreams, and celebrated her milestones. We hosted backyard barbecues, the aroma of grilling meat mingling with the joyful shrieks of children playing, creating a picture-perfect tableau of the American dream. Then, Lily secured a position at a prestigious law firm, a stepping stone to a brighter future. Or so we thought. The change in her demeanor was subtle at first, a gradual shift in her values, a growing discontent with the simplicity of our life together. She developed an insatiable appetite for expensive clothes, glittering jewelry, and extravagant dining experiences, replacing our cherished backyard barbecues with reservations at exclusive restaurants. She also began to make increasingly disrespectful remarks about Southside Chicagoans, her voice dripping with disdain for the very community that had shaped me, that had forged me into the man I had become. I understood the South Side's complicated reputation, the whispers of crime and poverty that clung to it like a shroud, but her attitude, the condescending air of superiority she adopted, felt like a personal betrayal. She, a small-town girl, a newcomer to this complex urban landscape, acted as if she were somehow superior to the very people who called it home. The irony, sharp and stinging, was not lost on me. Now, languishing in the sterile confines of my cell, I imagined Lily, flushed with a Pyrrhic victory, believing she had finally vanquished the Southside lowlife, who dared to impede her meticulously orchestrated ascent into the rarefied air of Chicago's elite. She reveled, no doubt, in the illusion of her triumph, blissfully unaware of the tempest brewing on the horizon. She had gravely miscalculated, underestimated the depth of my resilience, the tenacity forged in the crucible of a challenging upbringing, the unwavering resolve that burned within me, an unquenchable flame fueled by the fierce, protective love of a father for his daughter. She had mistaken my silence for surrender, my confinement for defeat. She would soon learn the profound error of her judgment. Within the oppressive confines of the jail, Ringer and his cohort proved to be invaluable allies, seasoned navigators of the treacherous currents of prison life. They formed a protective barrier around me, shielding me from the predations of other inmates, their collective presence a potent deterrent to those who might otherwise have considered me an easy target. They shared their meager resources with a generosity of spirit that belied their harsh surroundings, offered sage advice gleaned from hard-won experience, and provided a vital sense of camaraderie, a flicker of human connection in this desolate landscape of concrete and steel. I utilized my enforced solitude, the endless hours stretching before me like an empty canvas, to refine my strategy, to meticulously orchestrate my next move, each calculated step a brushstroke in a masterpiece of retribution. I maintained contact with my network on the outside, a constellation of individuals bound to me by unbreakable ties of loyalty and a shared understanding of the intricate dance of favors owed and debts collected. I set the wheels in motion, initiating a chain of events designed to unravel Lily's meticulously crafted tapestry of deceit, to expose her infidelity to the unforgiving glare of public scrutiny, and to bring down the corrupt judge who had so readily allowed himself to become a pawn in her game. The days melted into weeks, each indistinguishable from the last, marked only by the monotonous, soul-crushing rhythm of jail life, the relentless surveillance, the invasive lack of privacy, the ever-present specter of violence. It all wore on me, a relentless assault on my senses, testing the limits of my endurance. But the image of Regina, the radiant beacon of my daughter's smile, the unwavering hope of returning to her, of providing her with the stable and loving home she so richly deserved, that image sustained me, a lifeline in the suffocating darkness. 3 months later, an eternity in the microcosm of jail time, the heavy, steel gates of the prison swung open, grudgingly granting me my freedom. I stepped out into the blinding sunlight, blinking against the unfamiliar intensity, momentarily disoriented by the sheer vastness of the open sky. I drew a deep, cleansing breath, filling my lungs with the intoxicating elixir of liberty, a taste all the more exquisite for having been denied. My first act, my most urgent priority, was to call Regina. Her voice, when she answered, was a symphony of unrestrained joy, the most beautiful melody I had ever heard. I returned to the familiar embrace of Oak Forest, to the comforting sanctuary of our home, to the eagerly awaiting arms of my daughter. The house felt different, imbued with a newfound sense of peace, a tranquil haven shielded from the tempestuous storms that had raged beyond its walls. Regina, visibly relieved to be back in familiar surroundings, recounted the insidious manipulations Lily had employed in my absence, her relentless attempts to poison Regina's mind against me. But Regina, possessing a wisdom and discernment that belied her tender years, had perceived the truth beneath the carefully constructed facade. recognizing the insidious nature of her mother's machinations. She had steadfastly resisted Lily's attempts to indoctrinate her, clinging fiercely to her love for her father, her loyalty unwavering in the face of relentless pressure. Her steadfast belief in my innocence, her unwavering faith in my character, filled me with a renewed sense of purpose, a profound sense of gratitude for the precious bond we shared. My meticulously crafted plan, honed during the long hours of my confinement, began to unfold with the inexorable precision of a finely tuned machine. Each carefully orchestrated event, each strategic maneuver, fell into place with a satisfying inevitability. Lily's carefully concealed affair became public knowledge, splashed across the lurid headlines of the local newspapers, her meticulously crafted reputation tarnished beyond repair, a shattered mirror reflecting the fragmented remnants of her carefully constructed facade. The judge, facing mounting allegations of corruption and judicial impropriety, was forced to resign in disgrace, his career and reputation reduced to ashes, a testament to the corrosive power of unchecked ambition. Lily's prestigious law firm, irrevocably tainted by the scandal, hemorrhaged clients and prestige, its once sterling reputation irreparably sullied, a crumbling edifice built upon a foundation of deceit. Lily, stripped bare of her social standing, her ill-gotten wealth, and her carefully cultivated illusions, attempted to reconcile with Regina, to salvage the fractured remnants of the mother-daughter bond. But the damage, like a deep fissure in the earth, proved irreparable, the trust shattered beyond all hope of restoration. Regina, though understandably saddened by the irrevocable loss of her mother, had emerged from the crucible of this ordeal stronger and more resilient than ever. She had learned a profound and invaluable lesson about the true meaning of family, about the enduring power of love and loyalty in the face of adversity. I, Kurt D'Angelo, the man they had dismissed as a Southside low-life, had emerged from the depths of injustice, tempered by the fires of adversity, stronger and more resolute than ever before. I had confronted the darkness and emerged victorious, guided by the unwavering light of my love for my daughter, shielded by the impenetrable armor of my resolve. I had protected Regina, secured her future, and reclaimed my own life, forging a new path forward, paved with the hard-won wisdom of experience. And in the end, that was all that truly mattered. The South Side, as they say, remembers. And sometimes, justice, though delayed, is ultimately served, delivered with the cold, hard precision of a well-calculated revenge. Lily, her face a mask of venomous fury, her eyes blazing with the cold fire of thwarted ambition, directed a final, chilling glare at me, her voice dripping with the acidic promise of retribution. "You'll regret this, Kurt," she hissed, the words laced with a menacing undercurrent, a veiled threat hanging heavy in the air. "You and your Southside scum." I met her gaze unflinchingly, my own expression an impenetrable fortress, offering her no solace, no hint of the turmoil that raged within. The steel door clanged shut behind them, a final, resounding punctuation mark, severing the connection, leaving me shrouded once more in the sterile silence of the visiting room, the echoes of her threats reverberating in the emptiness. The ensuing days dissolved into a monotonous blur, an indistinguishable procession of identical hours, punctuated only by the dull, throbbing ache of my injuries, a constant, physical reminder of the injustice I had suffered. The physical pain, however, paled in comparison to the inferno of righteous anger that consumed me, a potent cocktail of betrayal, frustration, and the primal, unwavering love of a father protecting his cub. Lily's callous disregard for Regina's well-being, her brazen manipulation of the legal system, her unwavering conviction in her own invincibility, it all served as fuel for the fire that burned within me, hardening my resolve, solidifying my unwavering determination to exact a meticulously calculated revenge. True to his word, Ken appeared at the jail the following week, his face etched with a deep furrow of concern as he absorbed the extent of my battered condition. I recounted the events that had transpired, the meticulously orchestrated attack, the calculated brutality of the guards and their willing accomplices, and finally, my need for his unique and invaluable skill set. Ken, a brilliant programmer with an uncanny ability to navigate the labyrinth and depths of the digital world, listened with rapt attention, his keen intellect already dissecting the problem, formulating a plan of action. "I can do this, Kurt," he assured me, his voice quiet but resolute, the steel core of his determination resonating beneath the surface of his calm demeanor. "I can access the necessary information, expose the festering corruption that pervades this system, and bring them all crashing down." He accepted the list of names, a digital hit list entrusted to his capable hands, and with a grim, determined nod, he departed, leaving me imbued with a renewed sense of hope, a fragile ember flickering in the oppressive darkness. Over the ensuing weeks, Ken labored tirelessly, a digital phantom moving through the ethereal realm of cyberspace, his fingers dancing across the keyboard with balletic precision, weaving an intricate web of digital intrigue. He infiltrated seemingly impenetrable databases, unearthed carefully concealed connections, and exposed the sprawling, interconnected network of corruption that bound Lily, her coterie of lawyer lovers, and the disgraced judge in a sordid alliance. He uncovered a deeply entrenched pattern of bribery, extortion, and blatant judicial misconduct, a tapestry woven with the dark threads of greed and unchecked ambition. With meticulous care, he documented his findings, compiling an irrefutable dossier of evidence, a digital indictment of their collective transgressions, a testament to his unwavering dedication to justice. He then anonymously leaked this trove of information to a prominent investigative journalist, a seasoned veteran renowned for his unwavering commitment to exposing the truth, no matter how deeply buried, no matter how powerful the forces arrayed against him. The story detonated in the public sphere, a journalistic bombshell that reverberated through the hallowed halls of the Chicago legal community, shaking its foundations to the core. Headlines screamed of corruption, betrayal, and the egregious abuse of power. Lily's affair, already a whispered scandal in certain circles, became a lurid symbol of her moral decay, a scarlet letter indelibly branding her a social pariah. The lawyers implicated in her web of deceit, their once impeccable reputations irrevocably tarnished, faced the grim prospect of disbarment and the looming shadow of criminal charges. The disgraced judge, his career reduced to smoldering ruins, became a synonym for corruption and injustice, his name forever etched in the annals of legal infamy. Lily, stripped bare of her social standing, her ill-gotten wealth, and the meticulously crafted facade of respectability that had shielded her from scrutiny, found herself adrift, isolated and abandoned by her former allies, her carefully constructed world collapsing inward upon itself like a dying star. Desperate and alone, she attempted to contact Regina, to offer a belated plea for forgiveness, to desperately salvage the shattered remnants of their fractured relationship. But Regina, hardened by her mother's profound betrayal, refused to engage, her silence a more potent and damning indictment than any torrent of recriminations could ever express. Released from the confines of jail, I returned to the familiar embrace of Oak Forest, to the tranquil sanctuary of our home, to the unwavering love of my daughter. Together, we embarked on the arduous, but ultimately rewarding task of rebuilding our lives, piece by piece, painstakingly reconstructing a future from the wreckage of the past, forging a stronger, more resilient bond in the crucible of shared adversity. We left the opulent mansion on the north side behind without a backward glance, a monument to Lily's misguided ambition and insatiable greed. We embraced the simple, unadulterated joys of our Oak Forest life, the warmth and genuine connection of community, the comforting familiarity of our cherished surroundings. I carried the indelible lessons of my incarceration with me, a constant reminder of the harsh realities of injustice, the enduring power of loyalty and love in the face of adversity. I emerged from the darkness transformed, tempered by the fires of experience, my spirit unbroken, my resolve fortified. I had fulfilled my sacred duty as a father, protecting Regina, securing her future, and reclaiming my own life, a testament to the indomitable strength of the human spirit. And in the quiet tranquility of our Oak Forest home, surrounded by the unwavering love of my daughter, I finally found a measure of peace, a quiet satisfaction in the knowledge that justice, though agonizingly delayed, had ultimately been served. The South Side, as they say, remembers, and sometimes, the most exquisite form of revenge is simply the quiet triumph of living a good life, a life grounded in the enduring principles of love, loyalty, and unwavering integrity. As they dragged me away, my body screaming in protest, a symphony of aches and pains, a smirk played upon my lips, the outward manifestation of the cold satisfaction that bloomed within. They, in their arrogance and their blind adherence to the established hierarchy, had underestimated me, dismissed me as merely another nameless inmate, another South Side low-life to be broken and discarded by the unforgiving machinery of the penal system. They were about to receive a brutal education, a painful lesson in the art of retribution. The following day, I was summoned to the imposing presence of the warden's office, a sterile, impersonal space designed to intimidate and subdue. He sat enthroned behind his massive desk, a symbol of his authority, his face a carefully constructed mask of barely contained fury, the muscle in his jaw twitching with suppressed rage. "D'Angelo," he growled, his voice a low, guttural rumble, thick with the unspoken threat of violence, "we know what you're doing. These attacks on my guards, on the other inmates within my facility, they all lead back to you, a spider at the center of a web of disruption." I met his gaze directly, unflinchingly, my own expression a carefully crafted facade of calm and impassivity, a shield against his attempts at intimidation. "I haven't the faintest notion of what you're referring to," I replied, my voice smooth and measured, a study in controlled indifference. "I'm merely another inmate, navigating the complexities of this environment, attempting to survive within these unforgiving walls. Don't insult my intelligence with your prevarications, he snarled, his control fraying at the edges, the veneer of civility cracking under the pressure of his mounting frustration. He slammed his fist on the desk, the resounding boom echoing through the sterile office, a physical manifestation of his impotent rage. We have evidence, D'Angelo. Witnesses, we know you're orchestrating these attacks from within the confines of this institution, manipulating events from the shadows. Evidence, I challenged, arching an eyebrow, my voice laced with a subtle mockery. Witnesses. I'd be most interested in examining this purported evidence, in confronting these alleged witnesses, because I assure you, Warden, on my honor, I haven't so much as laid a finger on anyone within this facility. My hands, though calloused and bruised, are clean. The warden's face flushed a deep crimson, the blood vessels in his temples throbbing visibly, his carefully maintained composure dissolving in the face of my unwavering defiance. He knew, deep down, that I was speaking the truth. He had no concrete evidence, only a collection of whispered rumors, unsubstantiated suspicions, and the gnawing certainty that I was somehow responsible for the escalating chaos within his carefully controlled domain. He, like the guards and the other inmates, had underestimated me, dismissed me as a negligible threat, a minor inconvenience. You may harbor the delusion that you're clever, D'Angelo, he spat, his voice now laced with the corrosive venom of thwarted authority. But I assure you, you won't escape the consequences of your actions. We will find a way, no matter the cost, to make you pay for the disruption you have sown within these walls. I eagerly await your next move, Warden, I replied, my voice now imbued with a steely undercurrent, a hint of the unwavering resolve that burned within me. I knew, with an unshakable certainty, that he couldn't touch me, that his power, absolute within these walls, extended no further. My revenge, meticulously planned and expertly executed, was being enacted beyond the reach of his authority, in the world outside these confining walls. The carefully orchestrated attacks continued, each strike precise and untraceable, a phantom hand reaching out to touch the lives of those who had wronged me, targeting the vulnerable soft underbelly of their carefully constructed lives, their loved ones. The message, delivered with the chilling precision of a surgeon's scalpel, was unmistakable. Don't mess with Tex. A palpable wave of fear washed over the jail, permeating every corner of the facility, the guards and the 6 inmates living in a state of perpetual dread, haunted by the knowledge that their loved ones were vulnerable, exposed, that retribution could strike swiftly and without warning. At any moment. My reputation within the oppressive hierarchy of the jail underwent a dramatic transformation. I became a figure of both profound fear and grudging respect, the enigmatic inmate who could orchestrate chaos from within the confines of his cell, the puppet master pulling strings from the shadows, the man whose reach extended far beyond the concrete walls that imprisoned him, capable of touching the lives of those who dared to cross him. The other inmates, initially wary and dismissive, now regarded me with a mixture of awe and apprehension, their eyes betraying a grudging respect for the power I wielded, the undeniable reach of my influence, the unwavering resolve that burned within me, a relentless fire that fueled my quest for justice. They had learned a valuable, albeit painful, lesson. Don't mess with Tex. The South Side, after all, remembers. And it exacts its due with a chilling precision, or better yet, several of them, I added, my voice dripping with the corrosive acid of sarcasm, each word a carefully aimed dart designed to puncture the inflated balloon of her ego. I'm quite certain they'll be more than happy to contribute to your upkeep, to maintain the luxurious lifestyle to which you've become so accustomed. Lily's face, already flushed with anger, deepened to a shade of crimson that bordered on violet, a visible manifestation of the turbulent emotions warring within her, humiliation, rage, and the dawning realization that the world she had so meticulously constructed was beginning to crumble around her. She knew, with a sickening certainty, that I was right. She had become inextricably entangled in a web of extravagant spending, a lifestyle meticulously crafted and maintained by the fruits of my labor, a lifestyle she could no longer sustain on her own rapidly dwindling resources. You're despicable, Kurt, she spat, the words laced with venom, her voice trembling with the barely suppressed force of her rage, a viper striking out in a futile attempt to inflict pain. You're reveling in this, aren't you? Watching me struggle, witnessing my downfall, with a perverse sense of satisfaction. I'm merely illuminating the inevitable consequences of your own actions, Lily, I replied, my voice remaining calm and even, a stark contrast to her venomous outburst, a steady hand guiding the scalpel of truth. You meticulously made your bed, now you must lie in it. Regardless of the discomfort, she parted her lips, poised to unleash another torrent of venomous recriminations, but the words withered on her tongue, trapped in the suffocating grip of her own undeniable culpability. She simply glared at me, her eyes blazing with the cold fire of impotent hatred, then turned abruptly and stormed out of the sterile confines of the visiting room. Her hasty retreat a tacit admission of defeat, a silent acknowledgement of the shifting balance of power. I watched her go, a flicker of grim satisfaction warming the cold emptiness within me, a small measure of solace in this desolate landscape of betrayal and injustice. "I eagerly await your next move, Warden," I replied, my voice now imbued with a steely undercurrent, a hint of the unwavering resolve that burned within me. I knew, with an unshakable certainty, that he couldn't touch me, that his power, absolute within these walls, extended no further. My revenge, meticulously planned and expertly executed, was being enacted beyond the reach of his authority, in the world outside these confining walls. The carefully orchestrated attacks continued, each strike precise and untraceable, a phantom hand reaching out to touch the lives of those who had wronged me, targeting the vulnerable soft underbelly of their carefully constructed lives, their loved ones. The message, delivered with the chilling precision of a surgeon's scalpel, was unmistakable. "Don't mess with Tex." A palpable wave of fear washed over the jail, permeating every corner of the facility, the guards and the 6 inmates living in a state of perpetual dread, haunted by the knowledge that their loved ones were vulnerable, exposed, that retribution could strike swiftly and without warning. At any moment. My reputation within the oppressive hierarchy of the jail underwent a dramatic transformation. I became a figure of both profound fear and grudging respect, the enigmatic inmate who could orchestrate chaos from within the confines of his cell, the puppet master pulling strings from the shadows, the man whose reach extended far beyond the concrete walls that imprisoned him, capable of touching the lives of those who dared to cross him. The other inmates, initially wary and dismissive, now regarded me with a mixture of awe and apprehension, their eyes betraying a grudging respect for the power I wielded. The undeniable reach of my influence, the unwavering resolve that burned within me, a relentless fire that fueled my quest for justice. They had learned a valuable, albeit painful, lesson. Don't mess with Tex. The South Side, after all, remembers. And it exacts its due with a chilling precision, or better yet, several of them, I added, my voice dripping with the corrosive acid of sarcasm, each word a carefully aimed dart designed to puncture the inflated balloon of her ego. "I'm quite certain they'll be more than happy to contribute to your upkeep, to maintain the luxurious lifestyle to which you've become so accustomed." Lily's face, already flushed with anger, deepened to a shade of crimson that bordered on violet, a visible manifestation of the turbulent emotions warring within her, humiliation, rage, and the dawning realization that the world she had so meticulously constructed was beginning to crumble around her. She knew, with a sickening certainty, that I was right. She had become inextricably entangled in a web of extravagant spending, a lifestyle meticulously crafted and maintained by the fruits of my labor, a lifestyle she could no longer sustain on her own rapidly dwindling resources. "You're despicable, Kurt," she spat, the words laced with venom, her voice trembling with the barely suppressed force of her rage, a viper striking out in a futile attempt to inflict pain. "You're reveling in this, aren't you? Watching me struggle, witnessing my downfall, with a perverse sense of satisfaction. I'm merely illuminating the inevitable consequences of your own actions, Lily," I replied, my voice remaining calm and even, a stark contrast to her venomous outburst, a steady hand guiding the scalpel of truth. "You meticulously made your bed, now you must lie in it." Regardless of the discomfort, she parted her lips, poised to unleash another torrent of venomous recriminations, but the words withered on her tongue, trapped in the suffocating grip of her own undeniable culpability. She simply glared at me, her eyes blazing with the cold fire of impotent hatred, then turned abruptly and stormed out of the sterile confines of the visiting room. Her hasty retreat a tacit admission of defeat, a silent acknowledgement of the shifting balance of power. I watched her go, a flicker of grim satisfaction warming the cold emptiness within me, a small measure of solace in this desolate landscape of betrayal and injustice. Regina, however, lingered, her small form radiating a quiet strength, her eyes filled with a complex mixture of sadness and unwavering concern. "Dad," she whispered, her voice barely audible above the hum of the ventilation system, a fragile tendril of connection reaching across the vast chasm that separated us. "I miss you. When are you coming home?" "Soon, sweetheart," I promised, forcing a reassuring smile onto my bruised and battered face, a beacon of hope in the gathering darkness. "Soon, just be patient a little while longer. And remember, no matter what happens, no matter what she says, I love you, always and forever." She nodded, her eyes brimming with unshed tears. a silent acknowledgement of the unspoken emotions that swirled between us, then impulsively threw her arms around me, clinging to me with a fierce intensity, as if I were a life raft in a turbulent sea. I held her tight, burying my face in her soft hair, savoring the warmth of her embrace, the pure, unconditional love that radiated from her small body, a potent antidote to the corrosive poison of Lily's betrayal. It was for her, for this precious, innocent child, that I endured this ordeal, that I fought with every fiber of my being against the forces arrayed against us. The weeks that followed stretched out before me, an interminable procession of identical days, each one a grueling test of endurance, a relentless struggle against the crushing weight of confinement, the suffocating monotony of jail life. But I persevered, clinging to the unwavering hope of returning to Regina, of rebuilding our shattered lives together, brick by painstaking brick, of forging a brighter future, free from the insidious shadow of Lily's treachery. The warden, his initial attempts to directly implicate me in the ongoing attacks thwarted by my unwavering denials and the lack of concrete evidence, resorted to a campaign of petty harassment, a relentless barrage of minor indignities, designed to chip away at my resolve, to erode my spirit. He increased the surveillance, restricted my already limited privileges, and subjected me to a constant barrage of verbal abuse, each interaction a subtle reminder of his absolute authority within these walls. But I remained steadfast, my resolve hardened by his futile attempts at intimidation, my spirit unyielding in the face of his petty tyranny. I knew, with an unshakable certainty, that my time in this concrete cage was finite, that the day of my liberation, though seemingly distant, would inevitably arrive. And finally, it did, the day I had longed for, the day I had envisioned in countless sleepless nights, the day of my redemption. It arrived. The heavy steel gates of the jail, symbols of confinement and oppression, swung open with a resounding clang, granting me passage back into the world of the living, back into the waiting arms of my daughter. I stepped out into the blinding sunlight, blinking against the unfamiliar brightness, momentarily disoriented by the sheer vastness of the open sky, the boundless expanse of freedom stretching out before me. I drew a deep, cleansing breath, filling my lungs with the sweet, intoxicating elixir of liberty, a taste all the more exquisite, all the more precious, for having been so cruelly denied. I had survived the crucible of incarceration. I had endured the relentless onslaught of injustice. And I had emerged victorious, my spirit unbroken, my love for my daughter undimmed, my resolve forged in the fires of adversity. The South Side, after all, remembers, and justice, though often delayed, is rarely denied. This was unexpected, an anomaly in the rigid, predictable routine of prison life. I hadn't requested a meeting, hadn't even entertained the notion of communicating with the judge who had so readily condemned me to this concrete purgatory. His silence, since the day of my sentencing, had been as absolute and unforgiving as the steel bars that confined me. Intrigued, and cautiously optimistic, I allowed the guards to escort me to the video room, my mind a whirlwind of speculation, attempting to decipher the purpose of this sudden, cryptic summons. The judge's face materialized on the screen, his image flickering slightly, a digital apparition conjured by the arcane magic of modern technology. His expression was a curious, almost indecipherable, admixture of residual annoyance and something that, if I wasn't mistaken, resembled respect. "D'Angelo," he began, his tone noticeably devoid of the usual hostility, a subtle shift in the familiar cadence of his voice that piqued my curiosity. "I've been meticulously reviewing the specifics of your case, considering the extenuating circumstances surrounding your outburst in my courtroom." He emphasized the word outburst with a subtle inflection, a hint of lingering disapproval, but the venom was gone, replaced by a curious neutrality, and I prompted, my voice carefully neutral, a smooth, polished surface betraying none of the turbulent anticipation that churned within me, and, he continued, clearing his throat, a small, nervous gesture that hinted at the carefully considered words to follow. "I've arrived at the conclusion that perhaps my initial judgment in your case was unduly harsh, perhaps influenced by the theatrics of the proceedings." He paused, momentarily flustered, as if grappling with the unfamiliar sensation of admitting fallibility. "Your behavior, while undeniably disrespectful to the decorum of the court, was, upon reflection, understandable given the highly charged emotional nature of the circumstances, the complexities of your personal situation." He paused again, a longer, more pregnant silence, as if meticulously choosing his words, weighing the potential impact of each carefully articulated syllable. "Therefore," he finally declared, his voice regaining its usual authoritative cadence, "I'm willing to extend a gesture of judicial clemency, D'Angelo. Should you choose to offer a sincere and unequivocal apology for your conduct I am prepared to authorize your immediate release from this institution. I considered his offer a carefully balanced equation of pride and pragmatism, weighing the potential benefits against the bitter taste of capitulation. Apologizing to this man, this embodiment of the very injustice that had unjustly imprisoned me, admitting wrongdoing when I had committed no crime other than defending my honor and the well-being of my daughter, it felt like a profound betrayal of my principles, a humiliating surrender to the corrupt system that had sought to crush me. But the overwhelming desire to return to Regina, to celebrate her impending birthday with her, to be present in her life, to shield her from the toxic influence of her mother, that primal, unwavering paternal instinct outweighed the gnawing discomfort of wounded pride. Fine, I conceded, the word a bitter pill forced down my throat, the taste of ash lingering on my tongue. I offer my sincere apologies for my outburst in your courtroom. My behavior, while motivated by justifiable frustration, was undeniably disrespectful to the established decorum of the court, and I express my sincere regret for any offense I may have caused. The judge nodded, a curt, almost imperceptible movement, a flicker of self-satisfied vindication in his eyes. Very well, D'Angelo, he declared, his voice imbued with the regained authority of a man restored to his rightful position. You're free to go. Consider this a second chance, an opportunity to reflect on the importance of respecting the rule of law, regardless of personal grievances. Within hours, the seemingly impenetrable gates of the jail swung open, granting me passage back into the world of the living, back into the waiting arms of my daughter. I stepped out into the blinding sunlight, blinking against the unfamiliar brightness, momentarily disoriented by the sheer sensory overload of freedom, the boundless expanse of the open sky stretching above me like a promise. The feeling was exhilarating, a heady, intoxicating cocktail of relief, hard-won triumph, and a profound sense of gratitude for the simple gift of liberty. My first act, my most urgent priority, was to contact Regina, my voice thick with emotion, the words tumbling over each other in my eagerness to share the joyous news. Happy birthday, sweetheart, I said, my heart swelling with an almost unbearable surge of love, the words a whispered prayer of gratitude. Daddy's coming home, I informed the guard, my voice resonating with quiet authority that I would not accede to a meeting with anyone, not even the ostensibly esteemed judge himself, without the assured presence and sage counsel of my legal representative. He insisted, his tone imbued with the ingrained presumption of his position, that the judge was waiting, his patience waning with each passing moment. Yet, I remained resolute, unyielding in my demand. My lawyer's presence was non-negotiable. They could reschedule at their leisure. My schedule, within these confining walls, remained perpetually and ironically open. 3 days later, notification arrived, informing me that the rescheduled meeting was set for the following week, a minor but significant victory in the ongoing asymmetrical power struggle against the arbitrary dictates of the system. I promptly submitted a formal request for a private, half-hour consultation with my lawyer prior to the impending meeting, a strategic maneuver designed to ensure that I entered the encounter fully prepared, armed with the sharpest legal acumen and strategically aligned with my counsel's expert guidance. The requested consultation was granted, and my lawyer and I convened within the sterile, impersonal confines of the jail's designated meeting room, a space deliberately devoid of any semblance of comfort or privacy, to meticulously strategize our approach to this enigmatic encounter. My lawyer, his brow furrowed with a mixture of concern and perplexity, confided that he had received no substantive details regarding the true purpose of the meeting, a curious and unsettling omission that struck him as highly irregular, a potential harbinger of unforeseen complications. We concurred on the wisdom of proceeding with extreme caution, of maintaining a vigilant and defensive posture, of meticulously dissecting each word uttered, each question posed, each seemingly innocuous gesture. When the judge's image shimmered into existence on the video screen, a spectral presence conjured by the arcane magic of modern technology, his expression, as before, was a meticulously crafted mask of judicial impartiality, yet the subtle, almost imperceptible, nuances of his body language betrayed a simmering undercurrent of displeasure at the perceived inconvenience of the delay. I remained unfazed, my own demeanor a carefully cultivated projection of indifference, a shield against his palpable aura of authority. To me, he was merely another arrogant, self-important cog in the vast, impersonal machinery of the legal system, a man blinded by his own inflated sense of self-importance, a man who believed himself to be above reproach, above the law itself. My lawyer, ever the astute and efficient legal tactician, wasted no time in cutting through the veil of pleasantries and directly addressing the elephant in the room. Your Honor, he commenced, his voice respectful yet firm, a carefully calibrated blend of deference and unwavering resolve. Could you please illuminate us as to the specific purpose of this meeting? We have received no prior notification regarding the intended agenda, merely the perfunctory, and somewhat cryptic, instructions to attend. The judge, his irritation now palpable, a barely concealed simmering beneath the surface of his carefully maintained composure, responded with a dismissive wave of his hand, a gesture that spoke volumes about his ingrained sense of superiority. Your lawyer's presence was not strictly necessary for this informal discussion, D'Angelo, he replied, his tone condescending, a subtle but unmistakable hint of reprimand in his voice. I simply wished to ascertain whether you were finally prepared to offer a sincere and contrite apology for your unfortunate behavior in my courtroom. I discreetly signaled to my lawyer, catching his eye amidst the sterile formality of the proceedings, and leaning in to impart my whispered instructions, my voice a low, urgent murmur against the backdrop of the hushed room. Your Honor, my lawyer responded, his voice now imbued with a steely undercurrent, a subtle but unmistakable shift in tone that mirrored my own unwavering resolve. My client respectfully declines to offer any such apology. In fact, he formally requests an apology from you, Your Honor, for your demonstrably biased conduct and patently unjust sentencing. Furthermore, he wishes to formally petition the court for a modification of the existing custody arrangement, specifically requesting primary custody of his daughter, Regina D'Angelo. The judge's carefully constructed facade of judicial impartiality momentarily crumbled, his face registering a mixture of genuine shock and barely concealed indignation. How dare you? He sputtered, his voice rising in pitch, his carefully cultivated composure rapidly disintegrating under the weight of my audacious request. How dare you suggest that I, a duly appointed judge of this court, owe him, a convicted criminal, an apology? I stand by my original decision regarding the custody arrangement, a decision made after careful consideration of the evidence presented and in the perceived best interests of the child. I categorically refuse to entertain the notion of offering any form of apology whatsoever. Then this meeting, I'm afraid, has been an utter waste of everyone's valuable time, my lawyer declared, his voice crisp and professional, devoid of any trace of emotion, a skilled surgeon wielding the scalpel of legal precision. Should my client, at some point in the future, reconsider his position, we will formally request another hearing, at which time we will be fully prepared to present compelling evidence in support of his petition. Good day, sir, he nodded curtly, a formal gesture signaling the intended termination of this unproductive and increasingly hostile exchange. One more thing, the judge interjected, his voice now laced with a thinly veiled threat, a subtle reminder of the power he still wielded, the authority he still commanded within this self-contained kingdom of concrete and steel. Now, I thought to myself, we'll finally unearth the true motivation behind this elaborately staged charade, the real reason for this hastily arranged and curiously clandestine meeting. Your client, Mr. D'Angelo, remains in blatant violation of the legally binding terms of the divorce agreement. Specifically, when does he intend to recommence payment of the outstanding spousal support and mortgage obligations? I leaned in once more, shielding my mouth with my hand, whispering my carefully considered response to my lawyer. My voice a low, conspiratorial murmur against the sterile backdrop of the room. My client, my lawyer stated plainly, echoing my own unwavering resolve, has absolutely no intention of making any further payments whatsoever while unjustly incarcerated within this facility. But the house is on the verge of foreclosure. The judge exclaimed, his voice rising in pitch, his carefully cultivated composure cracking under the weight of a sudden, unexpected surge of anxiety. His concern, I noted with a flicker of amusement, seemed curiously disproportionate to his purported impartiality. It was as if the impending foreclosure of my wife's mansion posed a personal threat to him, a disruption to his own carefully ordered existence. This seemingly innocuous detail, this subtle crack in his judicial armor, resonated with a deeper significance, a hidden meaning that I couldn't quite decipher. Why? She pleaded, her voice cracking, the meticulously crafted mask of composure finally fracturing, revealing the raw, unfiltered desperation that lurked beneath the carefully cultivated facade. Why are you doing this? Why are you trying to destroy everything we built together, everything we had? Her words, imbued with a desperate plea for understanding, hung in the air between us, a fragile bridge spanning the vast chasm of betrayal and recrimination. Destroy, I retorted, my voice laced with the glacial chill of disdain, each word a carefully aimed shard of ice piercing the thin veil of her self-deception. You are the architect of your own destruction? Lily, your insatiable greed, your reckless and unchecked ambition, your blatant disregard for the sanctity of our marriage, for the vows we exchanged, those are the destructive forces that have brought you to this precipice, to the brink of ruin. I am merely a spectator, an unwilling witness to the inevitable and entirely predictable consequences of your own choices unfolding before you. But Regina, what about Regina? she stammered, her voice trembling with a mixture of genuine concern and calculated manipulation, invoking our daughter's name as a shield, a desperate, last-ditch attempt to manipulate my paternal instincts, to exploit the deep of love I harbored for our child. She needs a stable home, a secure future, a foundation upon which to build her life. Losing the house, it will devastate her. You can't do that to her. Kurt, please. Regina is far more resilient, far more adaptable than you give her credit for. Lily, I countered, my voice softening ever so slightly, the mere mention of my daughter's name momentarily thawing the icy grip of my anger, a flicker of warmth in the desolate landscape of my heart. She will adapt, she will thrive. She possesses a strength of character, a resilience of spirit, that you, in your self-absorbed myopia, have failed to recognize. And she will undoubtedly be infinitely better off, both emotionally and spiritually, without the insidious, pervasive influence of your materialistic values and your compromised moral compass. Lily's face, already pale with anxiety, flushed a deep crimson, a mottled tapestry of shame and simmering resentment warring beneath the surface of her skin. She parted her lips, poised to unleash another torrent of recriminations, a desperate attempt to defend the indefensible, but the words withered on her tongue, trapped in the suffocating grip of her own undeniable culpability. Only a strangled gasp, a choked sob wrenched from the depths of her despair, escaped her lips, a silent testament to the crushing weight of her self-inflicted wounds. She finally understood, with a sickening, soul-crushing clarity, that the meticulously crafted world she had built around herself, the elaborate facade of respectability she had so carefully maintained, had crumbled into dust, leaving her exposed, vulnerable, and utterly, irrevocably alone. She turned and fled the sterile confines of the visiting room, her hasty retreat a silent, abject surrender, an acknowledgement of the irrevocable shift in the balance of power. The echo of her hurried footsteps, a fading cadence of despair, reverberated through the silent corridor, then vanished, swallowed by the cold, impersonal embrace of the jail. I watched her go, feeling neither the anticipated surge of triumph nor the vindictive thrill of satisfaction, only a profound sense of weariness, a deep, abiding sadness for the woman she had become, for the shared dreams that had withered and died, for the life we had once envisioned, a life now lost forever, a casualty of her own insatiable desires. A few days later, Greg, my trusted confidant and right-hand man, returned, his face alight with a mixture of boyish excitement and suppressed amusement. Gina's birthday surprise is all set, Kurt, he reported, a mischievous grin spreading across his face, his eyes twinkling with anticipation. Ken was intrigued, to say the least. He required a few clarifications, a deeper understanding of the nuances of your strategic vision, but he assured me that everything is now meticulously in place, poised for execution. You're going to absolutely relish this, Kurt. It's a masterpiece of subtlety. He then proceeded to meticulously detail the intricacies of the plan, a carefully crafted and exquisitely timed scheme designed to deliver a truly unique and unforgettable 16th birthday gift to my daughter, a gift that would simultaneously serve as a pointed and undeniably poignant reminder to Lily of the far-reaching consequences of her actions, a subtle yet devastating blow to the fragile remnants of her carefully constructed world. I listened intently, absorbing every nuance, every carefully orchestrated detail, my own smile widening with each passing revelation, a growing sense of anticipation, a delicious thrill of impending retribution, building within me. The day of Regina's 16th birthday arrived, a bittersweet occasion rendered all the more poignant by my continued, unjust confinement. I couldn't be there with her in person, to celebrate this significant milestone in her young life, to shower her with the love and affection she so richly deserved. But I knew, with an unshakable certainty, that my presence, albeit in a different form, a more unconventional manifestation, would be undeniably felt. That evening, as Lily sat alone in the cavernous, echoing silence of her rapidly dwindling mansion, nursing a glass of exorbitantly priced wine, wallowing in a maelstrom of self-pity and simmering resentment, a sharp, insistent knock reverberated through the opulent, yet increasingly empty, rooms. She cautiously approached the door, her heart pounding with a mixture of trepidation and apprehension, expecting to find a stoic process server, a relentless debt collector, or perhaps one of her increasingly disgruntled and disillusioned admirers, come to collect on a promise she could no longer keep. Instead, she was greeted by the unexpected sight of a uniformed delivery driver, his face impassive, his demeanor professional, holding a large, elaborately wrapped gift box, its pristine surface adorned with a single, elegant bow. "Delivery for Ms. Lily D'Angelo," the driver announced, his voice a neutral monotone, cutting through the oppressive silence of the house. The box, innocuous in its outward appearance, held within it a carefully crafted surprise, A Pandora's box of meticulously orchestrated chaos, a birthday gift unlike any other, a testament to the enduring power of a father's love, and the chillingly precise execution of a long-awaited revenge. Lily's tears morphed into stunned silence as I challenged her fabricated accusation. The truth hung heavy in the air, her silence a stark confession. Her subsequent breakdown was a perverse form of liberation for me. I left her to her sobs, a crushing weight lifted from my shoulders. Back in my cell, a guard redirected me another Lily-orchestrated drama, I presumed, but it was Gina. Mom wouldn't let me come alone, she explained, her youthful innocence a stark contrast to the ugliness I'd just witnessed. A pang of guilt resonated within me. I missed your birthday, I admitted, the words heavy with regret. But I have a gift for you. Her unwavering love and understanding washed over me. I knew you wouldn't be there, Dad. It's okay. My heart ached with love for this extraordinary girl. The Oak Forest house is yours, Gina, held in trust until you're of age. Her eyes widened in disbelief, then sparkled with joy. Can I live there when you get out? She asked hopefully. A genuine smile touched my lips. Of course. I'll even pay rent. Later, Gummy's visit cemented the next stage of my plan. Everything was meticulously arranged. Hidden cameras, strategically placed by handsomely compensated cleaning staff, had captured my wife, her paralegal cohorts, and their corrupt political allies in compromising situations. Gummy would disseminate the footage anonymously online with a concise, potent tagline. Don't mess with Texas. The media would erupt. Careers would crumble. Next week, I instructed him, the anticipation of retribution a heady elixir. He nodded in agreement. Back in my cell, a triumphant grin stretched across my face. Ringer, ever observant, recognized the signs of Gummy's visit. A knowing "oh" escaped his lips, my smile broadened. Later, settled in my bunk, I perceived a palpable shift in the jail's atmosphere. Whispers of "don't mess with Texas" rippled through the cell block, the dominoes were beginning to fall. Then, the imposing inmate, one of my 6 initial aggressors, approached my cell, his demeanor markedly different. A mumbled apology followed. I warned you, I reminded him, my voice devoid of malice. Now others are learning that lesson the hard way. He beseeched my forgiveness. Granted, I conceded, but remember, brute force isn't a substitute for intelligence. He nodded, chastened, and retreated. 3 days later, the judge summoned me. My lawyer, awaiting me in the video room, wore a knowing smirk. Curious what this is about, he mused, his tone laced with anticipation. Time will reveal all, I responded, my own subtle grin mirroring his. The judge appeared on screen, his face a mask of barely contained fury. You orchestrated this, he roared, his voice echoing through the small room. I feigned ignorance. To what are you referring, Your Honor? I inquired calmly. Your texts, aren't you? He bellowed, his composure rapidly deteriorating. I've been addressed as such, I acknowledged, unperturbed. His rage escalated. You'll pay dearly for this, he threatened. I've been incarcerated for 4 months, I pointed out, the absurdity of his accusation hanging in the air. How precisely could I have managed such a feat? He ranted about my associates. We all have acquaintances, Your Honor, I retorted, my tone laced with dry sarcasm. His threats became increasingly personal, promising a relentless campaign of harassment upon my release. Recall your attack dogs, he demanded, his voice thick with menace. Now you're resorting to insults, I cautioned, a hint of steel entering my voice. Corner a dog, and you risk being bitten. Is that a threat? He sputtered, his control slipping further. Merely an age-old adage, I clarified. He abruptly terminated the connection, his fury palpable even through the screen. I turned to my lawyer. Did you document that? I inquired. Indeed, he replied, phone in hand, more compelling evidence. The Bar Association will find this most enlightening. A few days later, Lily reappeared, her face a canvas of raw fury. You despicable wretch, she shrieked, her voice laced with venom. You've cost me my job. My reputation is in tatters. I met her outburst with preternatural calm. What seems to be the trouble? I inquired innocently. How could you? She wailed, the accusation hanging heavy in the air. You did this to me. I countered. Not me. You destroyed your own life. Her voice cracked, laced with bitterness. Do you hate me that much? Yes, I admitted coldly, the venom spilling out. And all your lawyer friends, perched on their high horses, too. I twisted the knife. You were once a sweet, small-town girl. Now you're just a selfish, city snub. I watched her crumble. What am I supposed to do? I have no job. No one will hire me. Move back home with your parents. Start over, I suggested, the indifference clear in my tone. I can't, she sobbed, her face buried in her hands. The local papers are calling me the center of a Chicago scandal. My parents are retiring to Florida to escape the gossip. Florida sounds perfect, I retorted, far away from me. But they don't want me either. They barely speak to me, she sighed, defeated. Maybe it's your fault if both your parents and your daughter want nothing to do with you, I pointed out sharply. Move, start fresh, but leave Gina with me. I'll fight for custody, with your reputation. No one will think you're a fit mother. You can't do that, she's all I have. She protested, clinging to the last shred of her life. I don't care, you did this to yourself. We had a good life until you messed around, my voice dripped with sarcasm. Maybe you could become a companion for one of your lawyer buddies. At almost 40, you might still find a market. The pain in her eyes was almost satisfying. Her head dropped to the table, tears flowing freely. Tough luck, I said, turning away. Did you even bring Gina? She snapped, anger flaring through her tears. It's Regina, and no, she's with her doctor friend. Then there's nothing more to talk about. Don't bother coming back unless you bring Regina. I walked away, a flicker of something akin to regret, not smugness, surprisingly, in my chest. She was broken. The next day, a news report flashed across the screen. A fire had gutted the top floor of a downtown office building. The lower floors, spared by the sprinklers, I couldn't help but smile. Ken visited the following day, muttering about the law firm's off-site server crashing, all their data lost. Again, I smiled. A couple of weeks later, Gina bounded in, radiating happiness. She must have convinced her mother. Gina, I greeted her, you seem happy. What's up? I finally finished your surprise. You'll never guess, she exclaimed, her eyes sparkling. Well, from our last chat, it sounds like it involves the Oak Forest house. Did you and your mom move back? Close, she replied cryptically. What do you mean? Mom's getting kicked out of the Wilmette house, and I'm moving to Oak Forest. How is that possible? The court gave your mom custody until you're an adult. That's the surprise. I got emancipated, she announced triumphantly. With the house in trust, for me, it was easy. I needed a safe place, and our old neighborhood is perfect. So, you're legally an adult now? I asked, still processing. Yeah, when things got tough at home because of... Well, you know, Dr. Hodges helped me out. Once you're out, we can go back home. I'm so excited to be back at Oak Forest High. I've already caught up with my old friends. Mom mentioned you spending time with your counselor. I'd like to meet this. Alex, my unease prickled. You're in luck. Alex brought me here today, Gina chirped. My concern intensified. He was driving her around Chicago. Be right back, she said, heading for the door. I needed to handle this carefully. How to set boundaries with this Alex without upsetting Gina. When she returned, she wasn't alone. A stunning woman followed her in, smiling warmly. Freddie. Wow, haven't heard that name in ages, she exclaimed. Freddie or Alexandria? Frederico, we called him. Grew up with me. Same school, same everything. Gina looked bewildered. Dad, you know Dr. Hodges. Well, Freddie and I were neighbors, but not exactly close, I explained. Besides, she was a bit of a wild child back then. Freddie gave me a playful nudge. And look who's talking. Mr. Troublemaker. Some things never change. I couldn't help but blush. You got that right. I chuckled. Makes sense, she agreed. Should I start calling you Tex? Why Tex? Gina chimed in. Old nickname, Freddie explained. He always had a strong sense of justice. Your mom did him wrong, and I bet he's the one taking the fall for it. I plead the fifth. I grinned. Before we go on, hope you're cool with me hanging out with Regina. It's Gina. Regina corrected gently. Oops, my bad. So sorry? Freddie apologized. When Gina first called me 9 months ago, she was distraught. The name D'Angelo caught my eye, not too common. Then when she said her dad was Kurt, well, Tex came to mind. And when she mentioned you were in jail, I figured it had to be you. You weren't exactly an angel back then. No arguments there, I admitted sheepishly. Must be doing something right to have a place in Wilmette, though, she remarked. Just a house, not a home, I clarified. Home is Oak Forest, Gina piped up. South Side, but a step up from where we grew up, Alex added. Yeah, wish we'd stayed. Maybe things would be different now, I sighed. Truth was, if Lily had been happy, we might still be together. Our chat ended with me thanking Freddie for helping Gina. No problem. Family sticks together, she replied warmly. I've grown quite fond of her. I owe you one, I said. Dinner's on you when you're out, she suggested. Count on it, if I ever get out, I said with a heavy heart. The next 2 weeks were the same old jail routine. Gina and Freddie visited both Sundays, which I appreciated. Freddie was like a mother hen to Gina. She mentioned Alex helped her decorate the house, buying new furniture and decor. When I asked about the money, Gina said, "Uncle Ken's helping out. I have my own savings, remember?" "Yeah, I just didn't want Freddie paying for everything," I replied. "She's been great, but no, she hasn't paid for anything," Gina reassured. "Hope it's not all girly stuff. I want to feel at home there," I mentioned. "Don't worry, your man cave is untouched," she assured, referring to the basement, my sanctuary from living with 2 females. After they left, I pondered my daughter's maturity. She was legally an adult now. Soon I'd be on my own. In a couple of years, she'd head to college. I hoped to find someone who valued simple things. Then Lily visited on Monday. I almost walked away when I saw her. "Kurt, wait, we need to talk," she pleaded. I sighed and turned back. "What now? Do you know what our daughter did?" Lily asked. "What are you talking about?" I inquired. "She got emancipated. She's moved out and I don't know where she is," Lily explained. "Oh, that," I said casually. "So, you knew. Did you push her into it?" Lily accused. "No, she did it herself with her school counselor's help," I clarified. "She's back on the south side." "What about school?" Lily asked, concerned. "She's going back to Oak Forest in the fall," I stated. "She hated that Wilmette school, Lily. She was always belittled for being from the projects, as they called it. You took her from a school where she was happy with good friends and put her in a situation that damaged her self-esteem. You did more harm than good moving her there. I was trying to ensure she got a good education," she defended. "Kids learn from their parents' example more than in a classroom. We taught her life's lessons. What do you think your example teaches her?" The echoes of her accusations still rang in my ears, that I had uprooted Gina from her happy school life, damaging her self-esteem in the process. "I was only trying to secure her a good education," I defended, the familiar ache of our broken marriage resurfacing. "Children learn more from their parents' example than any classroom," she retorted, her words laced with bitterness. "We taught her life's lessons." "What do you think your example teaches her?" A wave of sadness washed over me. "I hope it shows her what not to do," I confessed, the weight of our failures pressing down on me. "Our job was to raise responsible adults. I hope we've done that, despite everything. It wasn't all bad," she countered, a flicker of nostalgia in her eyes, "but it ended up that way. I hope you find what you're looking for." "Clearly, I didn't have it." "Clearly," I echoed, the irony not lost on me. Her sorrow was palpable, and I left the table feeling a familiar pang of sympathy for the woman I once loved. Finally, the day of my release arrived. Gina, Freddie, and Lily were present in the courtroom, their faces a mixture of anticipation and anxiety. A new judge presided. Perhaps the old one had been swept away in the tides of change. "Mr. D'Angelo," he addressed me, his voice stern, "what do you have to say for yourself?" "I've served my time," I stated simply, refusing to offer an apology I didn't feel. "You could have apologized. Been freed sooner." He reminded me I didn't feel the previous judge deserved it. I retorted, a stubborn streak I couldn't deny. "Strong-willed," the judge observed, a hint of amusement in his tone. "It's served me well in life." "I countered your divorce settlement stands," he declared, "and you'll need to pay restitution." Lily, ever the opportunist, jumped to her feet. "What? You owe me more than that. You need to keep paying until Regina turns 18. The judge, with a withering glance, silenced her. My lawyer, a beacon of calm amidst the storm, stepped forward. "Your Honor, my client is willing to pay what he owes. Our calculations come to just under $20,000. He'll pay the full amount." He then meticulously outlined the initial spousal support, mortgage payments, and Gina's financial support had provided, even during my incarceration. He argued that my unemployment during that time absolved me of further financial obligations, and with the house foreclosed, the mortgage was null and void. The total owed is $1,782, my lawyer concluded. He'll pay her $20,000 and consider all ties severed. The judge, after scrutinizing the documents, couldn't dispute the facts. He acknowledged Gina's emancipation and the foreclosure, ultimately agreeing to close the case pending verification of the figures. He urged civility between Lily and me for Gina's sake, a plea that seemed to fall on deaf ears as Lily glared daggers at me. As we exited the courtroom, Gina embraced me tightly, Freddie beaming beside her. Lily, her face contorted with rage, spat, $20,000. But her venom couldn't touch me. I was free, that's it. $20,000, that's unfair. Lily shrieked, her voice raw with indignation. Why should they get off so easy? You chose your new partners over me. I responded calmly. They can support you now. You can't do this to me, she protested, her face contorted with a mixture of fury and desperation. Lily, let's be civil. For Gina's sake, I pleaded, trying to maintain my composure. It's Regina, she snapped, her voice brittle. Our daughter, I reiterated patiently. What are you going to do? You have nothing. A flicker of vulnerability crossed her features. Nothing, she echoed, her voice barely a whisper. I can help with housing, I offered, extending an olive branch. I have a rental you can stay in rent-free for 6 months. Move back to the south side. She whined, her voice laced with disdain. It's free, Lily, I reasoned. Can't argue with that. She let out a frustrated sigh, defeated. Turning to Gina and Freddie, I asked, ready to go? Absolutely. They chimed in unison, their faces alight with anticipation. Freddie, I owe you dinner. I remembered, a smile spreading across my face. I think so too, she agreed with a playful wink. Let's head to PM Italian, I announced. I made a reservation after getting release confirmation. Need to erase the taste of jail food, I added with a grimace. From the corner of my eye, I saw Lily's fury reignite. Our PM Italian was our spot for special occasions, a place filled with memories both sweet and bitter. I booked the table for 6:30. So, we've got some time. Mind if we take a drive? Just want to feel the freedom, I suggested, eager to escape the tension that clung to us like a shroud. Turning to Freddie, I asked, I reserved for 4. Can you check if your husband can join us? A strange silence fell over the group. Freddie's expression went blank, and then Gina spoke up. Dad, she doesn't have a husband anymore. Confusion washed over me. Freddie always wore wedding rings whenever we talked, and she still had them on. What had I missed? I'm so sorry, Freddie, I apologized, my cheeks burning with shame. I didn't mean to upset you. It's okay, she said softly. You didn't know. My husband died in a car accident on the Eisenhower about 5 years ago. A big rig forced him into the divider. They said he died instantly. My heart sank. I'm so deeply sorry, Freddie. I had no idea. I assumed because you wore rings. Yeah, she said, her voice thick with emotion. I just can't bring myself to take them off yet. Feels like letting him go. I know a psychologist. I began, then stopped myself, realizing how insensitive that sounded, with a mental issue. Freddie finished, a wry smile playing on her lips. I've heard it before. Well, I stumbled. I'm sorry. Will you still join us, so I can make it up to you? She looked solemn for a moment, then agreed. I think that'll be okay. I was struck by a wave of guilt. I had been so consumed by my own troubles, my own thirst for revenge, that I hadn't even bothered to ask about her life. I resolved to change that. From now on, I would be a better friend, more attuned to the needs of others. Dinner at our PM Italian was a much-needed respite. It was a relief to wear regular clothes, to laugh without fear, to savor the taste of freedom. But after 8 months of confinement, even freedom felt a bit strange, like a new suit that hadn't quite broken in yet. By the end of the meal, a sense of calm had settled over me, a stark contrast to the turmoil of the past months. Alexandria, I began, turning to Freddie. Whenever you're ready, would you let me take you out on a proper date? I'll wait however long it takes. Can we keep in touch until then? We're definitely keeping in touch, Gina piped up, her eyes twinkling. She's not getting rid of me that easily, and I wouldn't want it any other way, Freddie replied to Gina, her gaze then meeting mine. Mike and I never had kids. With my studies and his business, the timing wasn't right. Having Gina as a sort of daughter has been therapeutic for me. I hope that's okay with you. After everything you've done for us, I assured her, my voice thick with emotion. I wouldn't want it any other way. As we left the restaurant, Gina, ever the observant one, remarked, hope you like how our old house looks. Anything's better than where I've been the past 8 months, I joked, trying to lighten the mood. But when we arrived, I was speechless. The shutters were freshly painted, the bushes trimmed, the lawn manicured. It looked like a picture-perfect postcard. Inside, the transformation was even more remarkable. It felt warm, inviting, and more like a home than ever before. I could sense Freddie's influence in every detail. As cheesy as it sounds, tears welled up in my eyes. This hardened, supposedly tough criminal was overcome with emotion. Kurt, Freddie called out softly, her voice laced with concern. Wiping my eyes, I admitted, I feel like I'm home. Kurt, she said again, this time with a playful lilt in her voice. Alex, puzzled, I turned to her, with a mischievous smile. She removed her ring. Unable to resist her charm, I grinned back, and we embraced. 10 lawyers, 4 paralegals, 6 politicians, and a judge saw their careers and marriages crumble in the wake of my divorce and its tumultuous aftermath. Whether seen as stubborn or strong-willed, sometimes sticking to your principles pays off. On a positive note, Gina gained not only a new mother figure, but also a younger brother and sister, twins named Frederick and Alexis. It felt fitting to name them after the woman who helped me start a new. As for Lily, she finally achieved her ultimate goal, marrying a wealthy lawyer and residing in a sprawling mansion in Winnetka. She had the status she craved, but at what cost? Her husband, a disrespectful womanizer, used her for appearances, offering no genuine affection. I hope she's content. I know I am. Life had thrown me curveballs, tested my resolve, and pushed me to the brink, but through it all, I had emerged stronger, wiser, and with a newfound appreciation for the simple things, the laughter of loved ones, the comfort of home, and the unwavering loyalty of true friends. My journey had been fraught with challenges, but it had led me to a place of peace, a place where I could finally begin to heal and rebuild. The future stretched before me, full of promise and possibility, and I embraced it with open arms.